chest clip, but it ends up on my back in a front carry. And I just want to make sure that these two ends, there we go, like line up with each other so the chest clip is even on my back. I might adjust the height of this a little bit later. If you didn't know, this adjusts, you can move it up and down on your back. We'll talk about that in just a second. For now, we're already several minutes in. Let's get a baby up on our body. So this is my plastic baby, Hazel. She's my plastic newborn. You'll see her a couple of times as we move through today. I'm gonna put her up on my body just like I would carry her in my arms without a carrier. Some people asked the other day when we were hanging out in the booth and I was seeing some questions in there. You had some really awesome questions about washing the carriers, about how breathable the carriers are, about back support. Yes, they're all machine washable, absolutely. All baby stuff should be machine washable. But the ergonomics for baby, it's just like if you were holding your baby in your arms and they were on your, Hazel's plastic arms, and they're on your chest in this vertical position, really well supports their airway, helps to keep their chin up off their chest and their airway nice and open, helps to support their digestion because they are tummy to tummy with you, and also puts them in one of their newborn reflex positions, which is the spread squat, knees higher than bum, kind of ball of baby on your body, right? They've got a nice curve of their spine. All the carrier is doing is supporting the way that you would hold them on your body to begin with. So now that I've got them on my body, maybe I take a second here and kind of give them some pats, right? Some reassurance. They're going through a transition phase from like laying down to being up on your body to having the carrier on. So we can take it slow. We don't have to go as fast as I talk. I do talk fast. But now that I've got them up, I've got everything adjusted to the carrier, I'm going to smooth this panel right up here like so, and then throw these shoulder straps up over my shoulders and buckle that clip behind me. And once that's buckled, I can adjust my shoulder straps, and Hazel and I are in. So one thing that I love about baby Tula's carriers is that they're really quick to put on. I took a few minutes to go through all those adjustments and everything, but really you just click in the back, putting baby on, shoulder straps up, and click back here, and you're good to go. One question that we do get a lot of the times though is like, how am I supposed to do that by myself if I'm not super great at reaching all the way back behind my back? Not a lot of us, it took me a couple of years to be able to do that adjustment. A couple of things to say about that, but first, let me talk through just now that we've got baby on, then we'll go back to the back and start talking about how you can do all of this independently, because it absolutely can be done. And to me, it's really important that you do it independently because that's helpful, right? So first off, we talked about baby's airway and how the carrier helps support the C curve of their spine, helps keep their chin up off their chest, and keeps their airway nice and open. So the top of the carrier, where this fold is, where we folded down the panel before to make it nice and small for a newborn, we really don't want this any higher than where it is right now. And in fact, I'd like to move this just, yeah, there we go, just a little bit, to get Hazel just a little bit higher in here so that I can see her airway. I know that her chin is up off her chest and that I can see that she's getting fresh air the whole time that she's in the carrier. I also want to make sure as we move down here, I mentioned that her spine is nice and curved around my body and that her knees are up higher than her bottom, and her knees are all the way out to the edges of the carrier here so that the carrier is supporting that like spread squat position that we talked about before. We don't want this edge of the carrier to be past their knees so that their knees can like actually dangle freely and move around while they're in here. So one thing that we'll do sometimes in these types of carriers to give them a nice deep seat in here is to reach inside the carrier, come around their hips and scoop up at their knees. And here, I'll do it now. Just come inside here, reach around and scoop up. So I take my hands inside the carrier, I go down around their little hips and scoop up at their knees, and that helps to move their bottom really into this panel and seat them in here. So the carrier is taking their weight, and my back and arms aren't doing us. Yeah, so you can like kiss the top of their head and smell their newborn baby smell, right? Melissa made the kissing comment. I have to smell the top of their head. It's just like, oh, that's so very nice. And the last thing is that you should be comfortable in this carrier. And that brings me to this chest clip and also the waist belt, because those are the things. I think the hardest part about soft structured carriers is that it's these tiny little adjustments that really make a huge difference in the comfort for the person wearing it. It doesn't really matter, all those comfort adjustments, the baby doesn't really care all that much about, right? They're in here, they're fine, they're taking a nap, whatever. But we notice like a pressure point here on our back, or a little pinch over here, or a pulling on our back. And a lot of the questions that we got in the booth the last couple of days had to do with back support for carriers. Now, Tula does sell an extra lumbar support, which you put right on the back, on this webbing back here. That gives you a little bit of extra support when you're wearing the carrier. I particularly like it for back carries to help with a kind of smoothing out where the webbing hits your belly and front. But even without the lumbar support, the carrier is really helpful and supportive for back carries because of this nice, thick, padded waist belt. It's designed to hold a lot of the weight in this waist belt, so you're not feeling it so much on your shoulders. It has a nice, even distribution of your center of gravity and an even distribution of the weight, which is, again, one of my favorite things about Tula carriers. It's that their padding and their ergonomics is so streamlined that you don't notice the bulk, you don't notice that you're really in a structured carrier. This baby, Maria, is a very good question. What we're looking for is for the top of the panel to really be at like ear height. So like I need like half an inch more. Hazel is a little small. I'm going to do another carrier with Hamilton over here, who's a little bit bigger. So you can see a little bit better fit, because Hazel's, yes, a little tiny in here. But we should be able to see a little bit of ear out of the panel, and so that way you as the viewer know the baby's tied up, but me as the wearer, I can see that Hazel's chin is up off her chest and that her airway is supported, and that's the most important thing, is that the wearer knows, because I'm the one monitoring the baby the whole time we're in it, right? This is really good, excellent question. The weight limit on these carriers, they all start at 7, these two start at 7 pounds and they both go up to 45 pounds as well. They're both designed to be very newborn through toddler carriers without any extra pieces needed to accomplish that. They all have the adjustability, you know, within them. All right, so we talked about the waist belt and how it's designed to carry the weight. So it really needs to be, this top of the waist belt should be parallel with the floor. If it starts to tip forward, bring that waist belt back up close to you and tighten it a little bit more, because that will pull on your lower back. And that is what really wrecks the lumbar support of a lot of carriers, when it starts to pull forward like that. So make sure that your waist belt is parallel with the floor. And then I also mentioned this clip back here, this chest clip or retainer clip. You pretty much want it, I'm going to adjust it a little bit. I'd like it just a tiny bit lower than where it is. A lot of people will wear their clip up really high, because when I did that move before to reach all the way back here, that takes a lot of like range of motion to get all the way back there. But there are a few tricks that you can use to get around that, to do all this independently, like I was saying before. When you wear your clip up really high, it starts to pinch. For many people, it starts to pinch up at the top of their shoulders, and also starts to come in closer and closer to baby's face, and can sometimes irritate babies. So if you want your shoulder straps to be a little bit more wide, consider lowering this clip down a little bit and also loosening it a little bit while making your shoulder straps just a little bit more tight. Like I said before, with soft structured carriers, it's all these little adjustments that create a lot more comfort for you. So just make sure that you know you can adjust that chest clip up and down. You can make it more narrow or wide to make it more comfortable for you. To get it off without having to do anything with it, here are a couple of tips. The first one, we call it in the industry the t-shirt trick. So you're going to start with loosening up your shoulder straps. You want to give yourself some length under here. And then you don't have to unbuckle anything. Take your shoulder strap up over your head, and you are out. And you can do the same thing to put it on. Put your shoulder straps up, buckle this clip in front of you, put it over your head, retighten, and you've got it on. The other thing that you can do, you also want to start with loosening up under your shoulders. is take these shoulder straps, and once you take your hand off your baby and the shoulder straps are loosened, you want to make sure that you're always pulling up and back, that you don't have these real loose in front of you. Always pulling up and back to maintain that tension so baby stays against your body nice and secure. And as you pull up and back, you just go above your head, grab that clip. Now take this hand, support baby, and unclip way up here above your head. Then you can take your shoulder straps down. So a couple of tips in order to be able to get that chest clip all by yourself if you don't want to put a couple years of investment into your range of motion work. I don't think it took me that long to reach my chest clip, but it did take a little while. Okay, I'm just making sure. I saw a couple of comments of questions that I know that I'm going to get to as we go. Yes, so I'm going to keep going. That's a little bit about using the free to grow carrier in the newborn mode. You can also use our carriers, like I said, up to 45 pounds. And this one here, the Explorer, can also do forward facing. That's the big difference between the free to grow and the Explorer. Should I have them out here? Between the free to grow and the Explorer is that the free to grow faces in and does back carries. The Explorer will face out. So I'm going to take it off my plastic person here and show you in a little bit more detail what facing out means, because there's a question on there. When can you start facing out with your baby? You can start facing out when your baby has some head control, so they're able to maintain their own upright airway the whole time that they're in the facing out direction, and also that they're tall enough that their chin clears the top of this panel, right, so that they can actually see out, and they're not like, what's going on out there? They want to be able to see out, so their chin needs to clear the top of this panel. So that's the big difference between the free to grow over here and the Explorer. You'll note that the Explorer has these buttons on the front, and that's what we change for the facing out setting. So right now it's in newborn mode, right? Well, hold on. This pillow right now is flipped over for infant mode. For newborn mode, we're going to flip this pillow inside so that while we're wearing it, baby has like a little bit of extra cushion inside here, and this fills up a little bit of the space that newborn babies usually have behind their heads. And it's got little slats in here too, so you can tuck in these snaps so it doesn't irritate the back of baby's head or anything, which I think is a really nice detail that Tula has. Both of these carriers too are made of this twill fabric, which is like brushed. It's like a brushed French twill. It's really soft right out of the box. And like I mentioned earlier, if you missed it, totally machine washable, because yes, absolutely, baby things need to be machine washable. So I'm gonna snap this down, this pillow part down into the facing out mode though, so we can see the label and all that good stuff. I'm also going to change these buttons here from the facing in. Now we're going to go facing out. And the reason why these buttons are here is that they're going to move from here to here, obviously, but that's going to give baby's legs some space to come around the sides of the panel, which you'll be able to see once I get Hamilton up here. But for now, I'm just going to move these buttons real quickly. And then I also mentioned that this is on newborn mode. So down in the waist belt, we have things up to the, there we go, teeny tiny little newborn position for a seat. We need to take our sliders here and adjust them out all the way. And I do want to make sure that I snap 1, 2, 3, all the snaps in this waist belt, just for all that support. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. Unsnap it, slide it out. Sure got. Yeah, oh yeah, it's got padding in all the right places, I feel like, Rachel. So same thing that I did to put it on before. I'm going to take the adjustment part of the waist belt and put that against my body. And I like to put it on backwards because if you miss it, there is that safety elastic loop here in the waist belt that I want to make sure this buckle gets through. And then we'll snap it. Even better if you can bring this extra piece of webbing all the way through that elastic too. Bring this around. And now I'm ready for Hamilton to come up, and I'm going to place him on my body much like I did with Hazel. I put him right where I want to be. If I'm just like, you know, sometimes how you hold your baby like this, well, if you haven't had your baby yet, you probably don't, you know, sometimes how you hold your baby just like this facing out. But you kind of put your arms underneath their legs, and their knees are still up higher than their bottom for the most part. Sometimes we walk around a little bit more like this, but I remember doing this a lot with my babies. The carrier is going to support this exact same position. So it's really like a similar position that they had to facing you, with their knees up and their bottom down and their pelvis tilted forward. That nice ergonomic sort of position. So now I'll bring this up just like we did before. Nice and smooth. Put these on my shoulders. I'll show you again that trick that wasn't the t-shirt trick, but was the kind of pull up behind you and buckle. Gotta give myself a little bit of slack here. Pull again, back and up as I go up, 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 up. Find that clip. Slip it, hold it, and then I can release it. And now I'll pull these forward to tighten them. We are in the facing out position. So my baby Hamilton, even though he's plastic, he has excellent head and neck control. He can hold his own head up and maintain his own airway, and his chin clears the top of this panel. So his chin, the whole of his face, can see the whole world and take in everything that he wants to take in. And once he falls asleep, I'll take the front part down, turn him back in toward me, put everything back up, and we'll have a very cozy carrier nap as I go about doing whatever it is that caring for my other children and other things. So those are the milestones for front carrying, and that's the difference between the Free to Grow and the Explorer. There's also a small price difference. The Explorer starts at $179, and the Free to Grow starts at $159. So a little bit less with this. They both come with, though, as I'm coming back here, they both come with this sleeping bag. I just happened to detach it on the Explorer because I wanted to make sure that we could do the facing out position without any extra. The hood detaches on both of them, which I think is really awesome. But the sleepy hood can come up and it snaps. Remember I showed you there were those snaps up at the top of your shoulders? That's what the snaps are for, is to snap the sleepy hood up so that baby still gets a lot of fresh air here from the sides. You can still maintain or monitor baby's airway from the top, but they get a little bit of extra head support and a little bit of extra privacy for their cozy carrier nap time. So once baby falls asleep in the facing out position, we just turn him back in so we can take full advantage of all of that awesome sleepy hood stuff. Let's get to a ring sling. Yes, I saw a few comments once I mentioned ring slings that you were interested in that. So I'm going to show the t-shirt trick one more time for getting this carrier off. Loosen under my arms, those shoulder straps. Come on up over. Whew, and it does mess up your hair a little bit. If I loosened it up a little bit more. The sacrifices that we make, right, for our children. Thank you, Hamilton. All right, let's talk about ring slings. And we're going to talk about ring slings with my little baby newborn Hazel again. Ring slings for baby Tula. The one that I have here, unfortunately, is a discontinued print because it's super awesome. When we were talking about it in the booth on Monday, it was just after National Rainbow Baby Day, and it's a rainbow colored print, so we were all very excited about them. If you're looking for it on like the buy sell trade pages, it's called Megaloo Delight. I'll put it in the comments. Megaloo Delight, because it's spelled kind of weird. But Girasol ring slings with Girasol fabric are up on the Baby Tula site, and they have beautiful, there's beautiful rich teal out there, lovely stripe colored ones that I have to hold myself back from right now. But they're used all the same. All the ring slings are used the same, whether you get one for Baby Tula or you fall in love with a linen sling or some other fabric sling from another company. We just want to make sure that you feel comfortable using them. So there are still ring sling videos up on our YouTube and on our social media. Even though there are a very limited number on our site, they're still out there, and they retail for $79. So also an affordable option that goes up to 35 pounds. Some manufacturers are a little bit different, but most of them up to 35 pounds. Always check your manufacturer's instructions. So when I put on a ring sling, there's a seam up here above these two rings, and I'll hold that seam in my hand. The rings are out in front, so this tail part is hanging down this way. Then I'll put my elbow into this loop, put my head in, and the seam then ends up on my shoulder with the rings out front and the tail still hanging down. And that way I know that I've got it on, right? So I can make an easy adjustment with this fabric just by pulling on this tail here. Before you get the baby in, just like we did with the Free to Go, when we were putting that on and we were making sure that we've got our adjustments for the newborn and all that, there's just a couple of things that I like to do to the ring sling before I get it in. First one, before I get the baby in, first one is I don't like a twist in my ring sling. It creates a pressure point on my back that is perfectly safe for baby, but for me, after a while, it's just not comfortable. And you need to be comfortable when you're baby wearing, like comfort, confidence. This is all very important stuff. Okay, here we go. Just making sure that I'm checking up on comments. Oh, we're giving away 2 carriers today too. So hey, check out the giveaways. Those are all fun. Okay, good. Yeah, you can breastfeed while baby wearing, and I like to demonstrate that so much with the ring sling too, because the ring sling makes it really easy. Okay, good. I was missing a couple of comments, and I'm like, where did it go? So hi, everybody. I know, right? Yay, rainbow babies. Congratulations for rainbow babies. So before we put the baby in, like I was saying, we want to make sure there's no twist. So this part up here by your neck should be the same as this part here in front of you. So I'll do a little like this back and forth sort of move. And if I don't sense a twist, then I know I'm good to go there. I also don't want like a ton of fabric up here. If I had all of this extra, like I could put a whole adult in here. That's too much adjusting. I could take a whole lot of this out. Try not to get your hair in it though. I can take a whole lot of this out. So really it's just like as much space as like my elbow fits in here, maybe a little bit of my hand, just a couple inches of space for a little baby. Once you put a newborn up a few times, or whatever size your baby is, once you get them in the ring sling a few times, you really get a sense of how much fabric you need. There's a little bit more of a learning curve with the ring sling than there is with the structured carriers, but it pays off in coziness. I also work with a lot of people who feel like a ring sling is a little bit easier for breastfeeding, so we'll get to that too. But you can absolutely still feed in the soft structured carriers as well. Okay, last adjustment before we get the baby on. I like to make sure that the fabric isn't all twisted and pleated over on itself inside the rings, because when I'm adjusting this fabric, it's gonna pull through a whole lot better if it's not all folded. So what I'll do right now, it's really kind of a mess in here. What I'll do is find an end. Maybe this side might be easier. There it is. Find an end where that seam is. There we go. Aha, found it. Sometimes it's a bit of a hunt. And I'm gonna go from one end all the way over to the other, all the way through that red stripe. So all this is pleated out really well, pull it through. And now when I go to adjust it, it's gonna pull through so much easier. So now that I've done all those adjustments, I'm gonna go ahead and get Hazel. Hello, Hazel. Hazel's back. Put her up on this open shoulder, reach in under here, and I'm gonna pull both of her legs through. I could also use this carrier with her legs all the way in. If she wanted to keep her legs like froggied up against her body, she can totally do that too. On my Instagram, I have, I just posted a video not too long ago of legs in with a ring sling. It's really similar to what I'm about to do. Babies just have their legs up inside of them, not inside of them, up near your body, rather than outside this little loop of fabric. It's funny, with a newborn, it almost doesn't seem like their legs are out anyway, because their legs are so little tiny and kept so close to their body to begin with. So anyway, all that aside, whatever works for your baby, just follow their cues. If they want to keep their feet up close to their body, totally fine in a ring sling. Now that I've got them here, they feel good on my body, just like we were talking about with the soft structured carrier. I'm just gonna make sure that they're adjusted the way I would hold them on my body in this position to begin with, without a carrier. Then I can take this top edge, nice and smooth up their back. Yeah, oh yeah, all the ring sling fabrics, I think everything that they have out there, there's a question, are they non-toxic? I think everything they have up there right now is 100% cotton. This particular one that I'm using is also Tencel. It's cotton in a Tencel blend. Tencel is like recycled wood pulp. So it's a very eco-friendly and super soft fabric. All right, once this is up nice and smooth over baby's back, so they don't have any pressure points either, and I pull it up just kind of high, almost to the top of their head, not quite. All this extra fabric here is just gonna cup over their shoulders. There's gonna be a whole lot of extra fabric down here, and that is okay, that's good. All this extra fabric down here is gonna help us make our seat. We're gonna pull it out like to baby's knee pits, just like how we were talking about how the soft structured carrier supports baby from one knee pit all the way over to their other knee pit. Same thing with the ring sling. The ring sling is almost like sitting on the edge of a hammock. If you want to think about yourself like kind of on the edge of a hammock on a beach, well, think about yourself laying in a hammock. That's nice and relaxing, right? On a beach somewhere where you probably can't really travel right now. Yeah, okay, this is an excellent question. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The ring sling makes you nervous, like it's gonna come apart. When I was live in the booth the other day, we were talking about all the grocery store cashiers that I've encountered over the years who are like, how does your baby not fall out of that thing? And I'll tell you, it's all about this hammock analogy. Imagine yourself laying in the hammock, right? But then you're gonna swing your legs over to the side of the hammock and try to get out. If you've ever been in a hammock before, you know that it's not that easy, right? It takes some strength. It takes some core strength. It takes pushing your legs down and propelling your body forward in order to get out of the hammock. So when baby is in that position with their bottom really low, with their knees up high, their pelvis tilted forward, they can't push themselves through your body in order to get out, and they can't push themselves down. It's a weird physics thing, but it works out really well because it supports that same spread squat position that we were talking about with the structured carriers. Plus, it gives you all that super cozy feeling and really cool because all the stuff. All right, I keep talking about all this stuff. Let's keep moving on to get to baby, right? So now that we have all this extra fabric down here out to baby's knees, all this extra stuff up here, all this extra slack, I'm gonna pull it from under my back just a little bit. I wanna make sure there's no slack hiding on my back. It's gonna come around the top of baby and then over to these rings. I'm gonna find the same edge. It's the edge that's closest to baby and pull it, whoop, there I got my hair again. Not quite straight down, a little bit over to the side. Because when I pull it straight down, these rings really wanna move down. I don't want them to go too far south, just a little bit. So sometimes pulling to the side is a little bit more helpful. And you can see once I did that, a little bit less fabric around her. Once I did that, it really tightened up around her shoulders and the fabric came down from her head, exposed more her face, and capped her shoulders more so that she's not able to lean away from me, but her head still has lots of room so that she can exercise and move around. It's tall enough that it doesn't make her head floppy, but it gives her the space to look around and exercise. Baby wearing is a lot like tummy time for babies. They have those same sensations of wanting to pick their heads up, push a little bit, look around a lot. And all of these carriers with their, they have enough support. So like I said, they're not floppy, but they're still able to like look around a lot. Okay, we only adjusted the top of this carrier and we really didn't have to do a whole lot to the rest of it because we kind of pre-adjusted. We did that whole elbow thing before, so we didn't have a whole lot of extra slack to deal with from the beginning. We reached under here and we made a good seat for our baby. On this middle part here, we do want to make sure that this middle part is snug, but not over tight. Let me show you what I mean by that, because right now it's a little bit over tight for me. If this middle part gets too tight, that's when babies start to come up, 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 really, really, really high. If this middle part is too loose, that's when baby starts to move down really, really low, right? So if you're feeling like your baby is slumping off to the side or they're moving down really low, take this middle part here and your whole baby, lift them up to where you want them to be, and then take a quick top adjustment because the top is probably a little bit loose. But this middle part, take out that slack in the middle, and sometimes I'll take my tail and just kind of do this. Take out that slack in the middle until you can feel that your baby's not going to move down anymore, that the carrier is really keeping them in that neutral position. And then you don't need to tighten it any more than that. This bottom edge, though, is what a lot of people want to over tighten because they figure the bottom edge is what's keeping baby upright. but it's not the bottom edge at all. I don't even really need to do anything with the bottom edge. It's all about this middle part of the sling here that is really keeping everything upright. The middle is holding their bum and their thighs. The middle is holding on to all of the weight. This bottom edge here, if I over tighten it, that's what starts to do this with these legs, and they start to come together, and that ruins that hammock seat that we had going on before. I'm adjusting my rings down just a little bit because they were a little bit high for me. I don't like them quite so high on my shoulder. I really like a nice straight line here from the top edge where Hazel's head is right over to the rings themselves. And there we go. That's a little bit more for me. Sometimes people like wearing this shoulder part a little bit like up more on the top of their shoulder. That's totally fine. If it starts to cut into your neck, just kind of reach and pull just a little bit of it out from, not right from your neck, but from like an inch or so down. And that really helps a lot too. We mentioned breastfeeding. We only have a couple minutes left, and I think it looks like I got most of your questions. The ring sling starts at $79. And I'll go through the price ranges again and the weight limits too, real quickly, and then we'll do a quick breastfeeding, and we'll take this carrier off since we've got just about 3 minutes left. The ring sling starts at $79 and goes up to 35 pounds. The free to grow over here starts at $159 and goes 7 to 45 pounds. And then the Explorer that does the facing out option starts at $179 and is also 7 to 45 pounds. And I say starts at because Tula does a lot of exclusive releases, woven wrap conversions, lots of weird different things. Plus, they have a lot of sales on the site right now too. So check that stuff out because prices can change a little bit, as we know. Breastfeeding in a carrier in this ring sling. Take this top ring up like so to give yourself some slack and kind of bounce baby down. Some people just bounce down. Some need to bounce a little bit more to the side as well until you get into that lower position where you can negotiate latch with your baby. Get baby latched, and then I like to bring them up just a little bit so that I don't undo the latch, but it's a little bit easier on my back. Then once they're done, the most important thing is to lift them back up. Like I was saying before, if they get kind of low, take baby and that middle part back up to your body where you want them to be, and then tighten that top edge and that middle and just a little bit of that bottom. Take that extra fabric and bring it right on out to their knee pits to make sure that they've got their knees up higher than their bottom nice and low in the sling, and their pelvis tilted toward you, which helps to, like I said all before, maintain a nice curve of their back and keep their chin up off their chest, nice and open. So we went over the ring sling today. We went over the Explorer, which is our facing out carrier, and the Free to Grow, which is a newborn to toddler options. Do check us out on Baby Tula is on Instagram. We've got lots of videos on YouTube. And on Facebook, of course, and you can see lots more from our educators on there. And you can find me on Instagram. I am Amy Wraps Babies on social media, which I'll drop on the comments. Thanks again for hanging out with me and for dealing with our technical difficulties. And hopefully I can see you more on Instagram. Oh yeah, and stuff about twin carrying. We've got lots of stuff up on, I have some stuff on my YouTube. There's so much more out there too. Alrighty. Thanks so much for joining, everybody. Nice to talk to you again. Enjoy the rest of the expo. Bye.